in our live today, and we are going to talk about how to set boundaries and stand up for yourself. The podcast that Paia and I did in Bali, the last episode was today. And we talked about, we're leaving the therapy field, all these different things. And we wanted to like take it back for a hot minute, what our intentions were of the podcast, really talking about what we learned in 2024, as well as like just talking about how to set boundaries and stand up for yourself this holiday season, but also going into 2025, y'all. So, Haya, do you want to introduce yourself to the channel for those that might be tuning in or watching the live replay again later who may have not met you yet?
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Poiab Vue, and I am the founder of Your Own Pathway here. I also just started my YouTube channel, so I am joining Jackie also. So, yeah, I'm
Yes.
all about helping people forge your own path and to shamelessly own it because there's a lot of people out there. As Jack and I did this, I realized not everybody is ready for you to own it, and you got to own it though.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to add your channel in the chat here, so I might just do that in the comments below after because technology is like, no, girl, we're not doing it today. So I apologize, Faya. But
He has just been so whacked of late. So no, that's okay.
yes, so yay for the Mercury retrograde. If you know, you know, back up your devices now, everybody. We are officially in Mercury retrograde. So, where do we start with all of this? You really brought up, I love what you said right off the bat about, I realized that when I did this, this is something where a lot of people aren't going to be able to own it, or a lot of people aren't going to be able to be confident. And maybe they don't like to hear what you have to say or what I have to say with some of this stuff.
hmm I think it all goes back to our intention of doing our podcast
Yeah.
and the feedback that we have received from that. And what I've learned and what I saw from Bali, even 3 months, like 3 months later, everything is just like, oh, wow. Okay. This is why Jackie and I did this. And we knew that when we were doing this in Bali, we're like, some people are going to be triggered by these, aren't they? We're like, yep, and we're still going to do them.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think and I don't wanna speak for both of us, so you chime in if I'm wrong on any of this. And hello, Chris, Mama Krisha. I love how she
Hi,
spells her name.
Chris.
Close, Mom. It's the O before the I, but anyway.
Hi, Chris. Hello, Libras.
Yes, fellow Libra. She's a Libra rising, and y'all get your hair and your nails done on all the same days and all the things, and I just think it's so funny. But, when it comes to this, like, I know that my intention with starting this podcast was, and I'm gonna speak for myself, like, I wanna talk about these hard things that a lot of women that maybe don't really hear from, the non-traditional woman out there, or as us also being therapists and the non-traditional therapist out there, and now moving
Mhm.
into coaching and pivoting and shifting and doing all these things, like, we also have a story too, so I want us to hold space for all of this. Hello,
Mhm.
pug lovers. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Definitely don't forget to like this video, y'all. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, Paia, about like the intentions with the podcast? And is there anything that like I'm forgetting? I feel like we just wanted to speak our own freaking truth and own it, like shamelessly own it, you know?
I knew that people were not ready to hear our stories, and yet I think when we do these things, we're hopeful. We're always hopeful that, okay, we're going to help other people and we're going to share our stories so that other people can hear our stories. And yet, I wasn't surprised at some of our reactions that we got, where
Yeah.
people were not ready to hear what we wanted to share in our stories. And some people got offended by our path and what we saw and what we witnessed, and they felt personally attacked,
Hmm.
even though our intention is never to attack people. It's just this is what we see, this is what we feel, and we shared our experiences. And in no way are we trying to judge or shame anybody who is going through the episodes that we presented at all. And yet, a lot of people felt offended.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, and in the first episode, I said, "If y'all are triggered even by us talking about sex and me being in a swimsuit in Bali where it's effing hot right now, then it just shows you have work to do on yourselves." And, you're absolutely right, like, our intention with this was to just share our stories at the end of the day, and some people, because we are different and we're even different from each other too, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is one of those things people don't always like different. And when there is someone or some people or women, especially, who are different, um, people will get triggered by that. Like, because it's what's that quote? It's like when you don't actually understand something, you're threatened by it. Or if you're
Yeah.
not even curious about getting to know somebody and their stories or anything like that, because they might look different, be different, present different, whatever, just because you don't
Mhm.
understand it, like you might just naturally be threatened by it. And I think there's so
Yeah.
much to say with that. And yeah, like, our intentions were just share our freaking experiences, lived, learned, and heard, and people get
Yeah.
mad, and people
Yeah.
don't realize how hard is it to actually put your face on camera, put your stories out there, and also just shamelessly own it even when you and I F up in life. That is
Mhm.
not easy to do, and I think we did that in a lot of episodes, and people can come at you quickly. And also, could you actually do what Paia and Jackie were doing by just holding space for these different conversations or being
Mhm.
real and being vulnerable with this? I don't think a lot of people can.
Not a lot of people can, and this is why I'm getting sassy today, so it must
Go
be
for
that
it.
hair. Thank you, Chris, love my hair, thank you. It needs
Uh-huh.
to be washed, but,
It's your boss, Bob.
but I uh, not a lot of people can share what we shared, and this is why we're like, okay, we're gonna do this because we want other people to hear our stories because they may not feel like they can, and we're like, you know what, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We know that people may um, ridicule us or we're good troll us. I mean, we had a few trolls too.
Yeah, we did have a few
We knew we
trolls.
were gonna have trolls, and it's like, thank you for
Mhm.
trolls, giving us the energy.
Yep.
But we knew this was gonna happen, and yet I feel that it's so important for us to share stories because not everybody feels that they can share the story.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true and so valid. Hello, Nathaniel. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're right. And the thing of it too, like when thinking about all of this, like just being the women that want to be vocal about stuff, just even crummy things that happen in the therapy field, or even just talking and educating about complex trauma and shame and abuse and all these things. And I know with my clients, like they tend to gaslight themselves and they tend to think, oh my gosh, well, if it's not physical abuse or sexual abuse, then this is not that bad. I'm like, no, this is still really bad. And then when we shared our own stories of complex trauma and just how shame shows up in different ways of our life, I think so many people don't even realize it, and how we have the intention to do these videos to help people is huge. And some people don't even realize how shame is a symptom of complex trauma, but it's such a big symptom because it shows up so much, quite literally. And it's just one of these things that I feel like you and I, let me know if this is right for you or wrong for you. At least me personally, I wanted to shine a light on this. And I think a lot of people, when
Mhm.
they've learned, when I've said stuff about that's shame, that's shame, that's shame, they're like, whoa, I had no idea. Like they learn from me when I'm just even pointing things out in conversations, just even friends or family members. And I'm like, why aren't we actually talking about these things or being vulnerable or real? And I think you and I, it's really hard to be vulnerable and it's really hard to be real and it's really hard to be confident in that. And I don't know if a lot of people will ever shine a light on themselves, you know?
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping I'm not having technologies on your end,
You're
so I
back.
apologize if I interrupted you. Okay. Um, so when you were talking about that, like even people were like trying to gaslight us as therapists about our own
Mhm.
experiences and about trauma. shame and say, well, that was just a bad experience. That's not trauma.
Mhm.
Oh, boohoo, too bad for you. We all have crappy experiences. It's like, no, this is trauma.
Mhm.
I dissociated for the first 2 weeks, or I need to feel validated, and these are my feelings. And we're therapists, Jackie. We're
Yeah.
therapists, and other people try to dismiss our feelings. And this is the work that you do. We do. You're ashamed. I do a lot of trauma work, and people try to dismiss us and our feelings, and in doing these episodes.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's one of the biggest things is like us having to stand up for ourselves with these episodes and saying, no, this is something that is important to discuss. We need to talk about this. And more people really do just need to share their stories with that. And I think so many people are like, well, there's nothing unique because we all have trauma. And it's like, maybe, and the thing of it is, like, unless you hear these stories or people actually start becoming real and vulnerable and authentic and just legit owning it, like, it's gonna
Mhm.
provide so much healing, not only for that person, but also just other people to just share, like, "Yeah, this was messed up," or like, "Yeah, that is gaslighting, Jackie and Paya," or like, "No, what they said was actually really rude and mean to you, and that is psychologically abusive." And you're right. People really like to tell therapists, especially therapists, what to say, what to do, what not to do when they haven't even maybe been to therapy, when they
Mhm.
potentially haven't even gone to school for this, or
Mhm.
when they just think they know better. Especially me, because got the baby face. I get a lot of ageism from that and a lot of bullying. You said it best. I'm sorry. I said I just, disclosed that and shared that with the audience. So I apologize. I didn't ask for your consent on that. But you were like, this is bullying. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you are right, Paia. This is bullying, some of these comments here that we're receiving. And the thing of it too is like, how that I think is just so interesting because depending on the people, because we don't know them all that we got comments from, right?
Mhm.
Depending on, their age, their gender, race, ethnicity, all these different things, maybe life experiences. It's
Mhm.
like, how much have you worked on yourself? Truly.
Mhm.
How much have you worked on yourself for the fact of that, like, you might be triggered by this, or you're not even asking yourself, "Why am I triggered by this?" Or, "Yeah, boohoo, that's all trauma," or, "No, that's not good that y'all, like, made an episode about whatever." How much have you done work on yourself? Because it seems like people are stuck and people don't
Mhm.
wanna actually personally grow with certain things. And I feel like that's hard because we're also gonna be talking about, boundaries. I feel like it goes back and forth, like, how do you also, set the boundary with people if they are stuck? Just like they don't maybe have low EQ or they haven't grown in a certain area of their EQ. Maybe they don't have, unconditional positive regard, empathetic listening skills, just even talking about feelings or emotions, not shaming people for like crying or anything like that. It's just so complex.
Yeah, it's funny. What I say it's funny. When I say it's funny, I mean it's ironic. And
Yep.
I've noticed that the people who haven't worked on themselves are often the loudest.
Yeah.
They're often the
Yeah.
loudest. They often love to give their feedback without thought. And the ones that are truly trying to work on themselves, the ones that are really reflective, they listen more than they talk. And if it's
Hmm.
someone who's doing all the talking, I think they're trying to hide something. Like they haven't done the work and they want to show that, oh, I know everything. It's like, do
Hmm.
you? Do
Hmm.
you? And but we see it. We see the insecurities hidden by the ego of the insecurities, if that makes sense.
No, totally. It's like a shield, it's a mask, it's putting up a
Yeah.
front, it's like faking it till you make it kind of energy. And no, it's so true. And so many people will talk about that just because you are the loudest one in the room doesn't make you the most secure in the room. Just because you're yelling in a situation doesn't mean you're right in a situation. Like, and
Mhm.
that is so true. And it says a lot about people because when you're the one that's always talking or talking the most, how is it that you can even learn from anybody or you're not even comfortable with just hearing people and listening to them and really soaking that information in. And you're right. Um, what do you think, like, after the podcast, once it all aired and stuff, what do you think you learned about, like, yourself or other people or just since then? Because we haven't recorded for months, but all the episodes are out there, right?
Oh my gosh, like we recorded these episodes in Bali, so that was like July and August, and then when we came home, it was like September, early September,
We
and
needed a break.
we needed a break. We needed a break. What have I learned about myself? A lot, a lot, a freaking a lot,
Yeah.
and I mean that in a positive way. And gosh, Bali, Bali was a life changing trip. And it was a life changing trip in ways that I didn't anticipate. I should say that. It was very much growing pains from when we filmed it until now. And I would say I feel a lot lighter now than I was before that because we were
Mhm,
going through so much and we talked about a lot of hard topics and we also were excited about it, but we knew that not everybody was going to be comfortable with our topics and that we were going to get pushed back, and I was okay with that because when you talk about things that people are not ready to hear, they're going to try to push back and they're going to try to villainize us.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're right, and you and I talk about that a lot, like, I'm not in my villain era, I'm just in my truth teller era, and some people don't like the shameless truth, and, they may look at you and I as villains, but it's like, this is hard topics to talk about. This is not
Hmm.
easy for us to just do, like, we're legit sharing this and being completely real with all of you here, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to listen to this. But someone else out there, these episodes will help them at the end of the day. And you're right, like, it's easier for people to look at us as villains rather than be like, let me try to get in their shoes. Let me try to understand, like, their perspective in these different episodes. Let me try to learn something here. Let me try to remain open and curious to this because I'm very, like, intrigued by what they're doing here. And even people in Bali were
Mhm.
intrigued by what we were doing. They were so interested. And it was so different culturally there versus culturally here in the United States.
Mhm.
People there, strangers, wanted to
Yeah,
ask us what we were doing, were looking at us, were excited, came up to us, right? People
yeah.
here were offended, were triggered. Some people were like, this is really great that you're having child-free episodes and you're actually talking about
Mhm.
this. Like, we did get some good feedback on this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting, like, how a lot of people might just be like, well, if that's how they really feel, then I'm not going to support them.
Mhm.
And that says a
Yeah.
lot, especially if they know us versus if it's a
Yes.
rando or if it's an acquaintance, right? Like the relationship all depends and matters. But I think it's
Mhm.
so interesting how we got a lot of support from people in Bali.
We did. We did. And Jackie, I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'm not
Nothing
surprised as
surprises Paia anymore.
my 40 years, 41 years of life, nothing surprises me anymore. And I wish, do I feel bad about that? No, I think it's acceptance.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my acceptance era, and it's like, okay, I accept this, and what am I going to do with it? I can't change other people. All I got to do is keep doing what I'm doing, forging my own path, and owning it. And yeah, people in Bali were wonderful. They were so supportive. They wanted to know the work we were doing. And they were like applauding us. They were just like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's wonderful. And then when we got here, people almost like, oh, like, what are you doing? Oh, okay. It's like, all right then. It was like very judgmental. It's like very
Mhm.
judgmental.
Yeah.
And I did not feel bad about the episodes that we did. I don't feel bad at all. I'm glad we did them.
Mm-mm.
And I knew that not everybody was going to like them. And that's on them. That's not on us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you feel like, "Holy crap, I learned a lot about myself in Bali," and even coming back from Bali, and I learned a lot about other people too, and it just says a lot. Like, it sounds like there's just been a lot of, like, aha light bulb moments for you and myself included.
I think I learned more about myself and other people in the last 3 months than I did this total entire year.
Dang! You wanna share anything with that or no?
I just, I think when I went to Bali, Bali was supposed to be positive, and Bali is a beautiful country. Anybody who's never been to Bali, I definitely recommend going to Bali. It's a beautiful country. It's going to change your life in ways that you may anticipate and not anticipate. And yet, when I came back and when I was in Bali, when I came back, I was just like, wow, I've learned more about people in the last 3 months than I did from January to like July, where I was
Yeah.
kind of almost like, just, going through life, wondering what I'm gonna do. And then when we went to Bali, came back, I'm like, wow, I learned a lot about other people, which forced me to learn about myself and
Yeah.
how I saw people, how I saw how much people mask who they were by, again, by masking who they were by like having cars, houses, the vacations, like being wealthy. But I'm like, that does not, I'm gonna swear, that does not mean shit. I was like, that does not mean shit. People may have everything, but that does not mean shit. They don't know themselves and they're trying to hide things by having all of that, and they're masking. And I was like, oh my God, 2024 is the year of the unmasking of people. And
Yeah.
besides you, Jackie, I love listening to astrology. You're like my top three, okay? So
I appreciate that.
and I like listening to other people too, and they're all like, people are unmasking. I'm like, oh my God, this is the year of people unmasking who they are and showing who they are behind that mask. And I remember when I came back from Bali, I was like, Jackie, it was all masking. People's masks fell.
Mhm.
All the people's masks fell before Halloween,
Mm,
like
yeah, yeah, and
Halloween
I
is 2 weeks away, and yet it's summer, and here people are masking themselves, and it was like people behind the mask. I was like, wow, there's a lot of unhealed wounds that people are trying to hide with superficial things.
absolutely. Like, just because you have the stuff, just because you have the money, just because you have certain things, houses, homes, like you said, does not mean crap if you don't have your health and your whole
Yeah.
health, not just like physical,
Yeah.
mental, sexual,
Spiritual. Yeah.
spiritual, everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, this year has been the year of karma and, with the number 8 breaking down, and that has been coming up so much with so many people. And when you said like, yeah, it's been unmasking, like I think when you said that, like in the previous episode, I had reflected back from January to like now. I was like thinking about this last week because I knew we were going to go live. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I was like, "Paella, like, I've noticed this in people from January, like, till now." Whether or not I actually recognized it, like, I'm
Hmm.
seeing it more and more and more and more. And also, like, even famous celebrities have been unmasked and have been exposed. And a lot of
Hmm.
celebrities have also there's been a lot of reels of them saying too, "Yeah, I still struggle with my own happiness even though I have money."
Hmm.
Even though I have the stuff, even though I could
Hmm.
have everything in the world, I still struggle with my mental health, and so money is not everything. And I'm like, "That is so
Hmm.
fucking true." And you're right, like, the unmasking, you see different things, and then it's just like, "Oh my goodness." Then it makes you, like, self-reflect and, like, look at yourself in the mirror and be like, "Whoa, where am I at? What am I wanna change about myself?" Or, "How can I start with changing certain things?" And that's also a hard
Hmm.
lesson to integrate too. And for me, like, I looked up the spiritual meaning of Bali,
Ah, okay. What?
and
What?
I looked it up one time and I think it meant strength. I'm gonna look it up again, but when, um, I looked it up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this was just so true," because Bali taught me to now more than ever step into my effing power and shamelessly own it. Speak the F up, be honest with people. Like, and I don't know if I'll ever see these people again. And who the hell do I care if I do or I don't? Well, you obviously. But I mean like these other people, like I don't know them from the person, on the beach in Bali, things like that. And so it's like it was just so interesting. So Bali's called the island of the gods, which is World Purification Center as well, is what they say. And when it comes to the meaning of Bali, it represents strength. And it's something where spiritually there's a lot of blessings when it comes to prayers and offerings, like, we saw the offerings there where we were at and even people's cars and stuff. So, it was just super interesting because it talked about emphasis of offerings to other people or the divine or, it being a very sacred and transformative space. And I was like, "Holy fucking crap, that is a beautiful place to change or to be the catalyst of change for people, whether or not maybe they recognize it and realize it." And, you mentioned people masking with the stuff, but I really saw people masking their emotions. I saw people masking their thoughts, and I wish that it was different. And unfortunately, like you said, cannot control people, and people are going to show up how they're gonna show up, and I just hope that, with anybody that felt like they had to hide themselves or mask with anything, be it physical or emotional or even mentally masked, like, I just wish nothing but good on the people that were on that retreat with us there and that they hopefully learn if they weren't happy with something or different day to day feelings like I'm repressing and suppressing this, that they speak up the F up in the future. 'Cause I knew, like, if I didn't, like, say how I feel, like, that's gonna be so bad for my mental health coming back, and then working with clients? Hell no. And we took
Yeah.
a week off when we came back, you know?
We did, and I took a week off, and then the following week I had a few clients, but I still was recovering, and so
Mhm.
when we were in Bali, we like got washed away, and then the sand came into our bags, and
Yeah.
I still have sand on my phone, and I decided not to get rid of that sand. So I have
Well,
sand in
mhm.
my phone, and that's like my blessing of like Bali and the
Yeah.
transformation. And you're so right. I think I knew my life was going to change, and not in that way. And now that I can honestly say this, I am grateful for these experiences. I really am, because without these experiences, I would not have accepted where I am right now, where I feel so much lighter and just like, you know what? It is what it is. If I hadn't gone through this, I would be fighting. I would be fighting against all these emotions and what I'm feeling. Now I'm just like, okay, bring it on. I'm accepting. I I'm accepting, and I'm going with it, and all I can do is keep doing what I'm doing, and I know that everything's going to work out. 3 months
Mhm.
ago, I don't think I could have said that.
Yeah, that's huge with growth and transformation, and I love that you kept the sand with me just, like, Googling right now that, like, it's a purifier, like, when it comes to Bali, and maybe the
Yeah.
sand was like, "Let me cleanse your phone here, Paia, and the
Yeah.
energies attached to it," maybe, I don't know, but that's super
Yeah.
interesting. Do you
Yeah.
have other thoughts on Bali or 2024 reflections of the podcast before we get into boundary stuff?
I'm so grateful that we did our podcast, which
Me
helped
too.
me like do my podcast that I'm doing on my own. And I'm grateful for everything in 2024, because it really has transformed, transitioned, metamorphosed, me
Mhm.
into this person that I'm able to talk with you today. Because again, I don't think I would be I don't think I would even have this haircut right now. If I hadn't
Mm.
gone to Bali. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's like cutting off 2024 and just allowing myself to have the lightness versus the heaviness. And so
Yeah.
I think Bali Bali was a trip that needed to happen, and it helped with growth and everything that I'm feeling today. So, yeah, I
Mm.
loved it. It was fun. It was great. I'm ready to go on another vacation to another location to do our podcast. So,
Yes. Yes, I love it.
maybe in the
Yes.
cool this time.
Yeah, maybe, and I would be down for that. But yeah,
Mhm.
so I love that for both of you. Thanks, mom. Thank you, Chris,
Yeah,
or I guess
thank
it's
you,
Crystal
Chris.
or Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, what
Um,
about you? Like, what do you feel like you learned about Bali in this year in our podcast?
Yeah, I think, well, can I just share something that I sent you a message about earlier?
Yeah. Yeah,
With everybody,
go ahead.
because it relates to what you said. 'Cause you said, like, doing this podcast helped me do my own podcast, and in today's episode, I was like, "Holy fucking crap, Haya, do you realize the transformation that you have just had from the first episode and the trajectory of this podcast to the last one? Like, your confidence has completely changed, and you are just, like, in it, on it, IDGAF energy." And I'm like, it was just so beautiful to watch and see, right? And I was like, I don't mean this in any, like, offensive way, but I was like, "Girl, this is so freaking good." So I'm so excited for you because now you're doing your podcast
Mhm.
and you're interviewing people, and it's just gonna be
Yeah.
that much, like, just it's gonna be so freaking good, right? So I just wanted to share that. So I do want everybody to just know to, like, definitely check out Paya's channel here too and podcast
Thank
episodes, and,
you.
I will comment your, channel down below too and everything like that. But yeah, like, what did I learn about Bali or this year or just in general? Yeah.
Yeah.
A podcast. Our podcast, I actually, like, learned about, like, wow, I have some shadow work to do when it comes to, just nervousness about putting these episodes out there because we were so shamelessly honest and real. And I don't know if I told you this or not in Bali, but I was, like, waking up the next day, like, after we had these really great episodes and stuff, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so good. That episode was so good." And then the next morning, I was waking up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really kinda scared to put this out there." And then I had to really think about this. I was like, why am I so scared? Like, because I'm just talking about lived experience here and I haven't done that on my channel? Is it because I'm nervous about what people might say? Is it because of trolls? Is
Mhm.
it because this is something so different that therapists don't do podcasts really about our experiences? They don't talk about themselves, right? So I was just like, is that what it is? And I was like, wow, I think this is what it is. And so I really had to mentally work on myself and really had to flip the script and remember the why and our intentions of this. I'm like, Jackie, girlfriend, we've been talking about this for a year. And if you
Yes.
even suggest Paia, like, should we like not put these episodes out there, blah blah blah, because like they could hurt someone's feelings. She'd be like, "Girl, what the f? I thought you worked on your confidence here." So I'm like, I'm not even gonna go there because I don't want it to be something where she second guesses herself and then feels like she has to filter. And I don't
Mhm.
want to have to second guess myself. And so I think when we had the first week in Bali, it taught me not to second guess myself with things
Yeah.
in life, be it podcast or anything. And that's
Mhm.
something that I'm still consistently working on with my mindset. Um, I also think just with 2024, like, people expose themselves to me, honestly. I saw a lot of different things when it comes to just in the world, like close people, far people, celebrities I don't know, celebrities I do know, just different things.
Mhm.
And it was so interesting astrologically with Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn in that sign so many years. It was like the final year of just completely breaking things down to illuminate and show like how effed up some things are out there. And so I
Mhm.
learned a lot about my relationships with that, personal and professional. And this is something where, I also learned like I made that conscious decision back in March to not do therapy anymore.
Yeah.
It was more affirmed and validated after we did our podcast episodes because I only work with people that are invested. I only work with people that are motivated. I only work with people that are ready. And that's one of
Mhm.
the things that like I've just had so many epiphany and aha moments here like I wanna help people sooner rather than later. Like, I want you to be ready when we do our work together. Like, and
Mhm.
in our last episode, you said you have wasted a lot of energy on people over the past 16 years of being a therapist in
Yeah,
different capacities and ways. And I
yeah,
was like, wow, like that also illuminated as therapists, we get ingrained and trained in us. Well, is the client ready for this? Are they ready for that? Da, 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 da. And
mhm,
personally, it's an excuse. And I'm not buying that
yeah,
biscuit anymore. We're never ready for things in life. And that's why I'm also like happy to be done doing therapy because I don't even have to overthink these things for my clients when
mhm,
they won't even potentially think about these things for themselves, you know?
yeah,
So that was something that I was really, really, really reflecting on. And I was just like, whoa, aha moment here. This is big. And this is gold. And when Pluto was out of Capricorn and us cardinal signs, we get the break
yeah,
now.
we
I had
do.
the next day just like this surge of confidence that came back
Yeah,
to me in this transformation of 2024. And I just learned about myself a lot. And I learned about what I do and what I don't tolerate anymore with people in life. And personal, professional, like, it goes back and forth overall. So that's my long-winded tangent. I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I learned a lot about myself with the podcast, and I think the thing of it too is, like, I'm ready for it, and then when I realized I was scared about posting, maybe I wasn't as ready, but I did it anyway, and so
yeah,
again, like, no challenge, no change, like, do it, like, feel the fear and do it anyway, right? And if
mhm,
people are gonna hate on you and troll you or be upset, it's just like I've learned people let them. Let them have their
yeah,
feelings,
mhm,
let them have their opinions, and honestly, we are just not the podcast for them, and other
yeah,
people will love what we're doing. And we had a therapist comment too that was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that the 2 of you are talking about this. This is so incredible and so amazing. I can't wait to watch the other episodes." And I'm like, "That is my people. Like, that is my person right
yeah.
there." So, yes, that's my tangent. Chris says, "You're welcome. You both deserve blessings and release the ugliness." So proud of you too. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you.
Thank
So
you.
that's my long-winded tangent. Did you have anything to add?
I think you brought up such a great point. We were like, yeah, we're like ready for this. And then when we were filming, we're like, should we censor ourselves? It's like, no, no, we
Mm,
shouldn't. We should say how and what we're feeling because you're right. Not everybody's gonna vibe with us. And we know that there's that one, two, three, four, five person that's gonna vibe with us. And if you don't like it, don't have to watch it. Nobody's forcing you to. So
mm,
we all have
yes.
free will. We all have free will.
Yes, that's one of the lessons I've learned about in 2024 is people think they're being forced into things and they want to claim victim of their life circumstances. And it's like, no, you have a choice here. You are a grown up, you're an adult, you have choices. And if you don't like it, leave it. And if you don't like something, like if you're not making changes with it, like I don't have time for people to complain anymore. Like I really, really don't, you know?
We all have free will at the end. That's one thing I learned. We all have free will. We all have choices. We all come from less than ideal circumstances, and yet we get to choose how we want to proceed with that circumstance.
Yes, absolutely. Chris says, "Truth is golden," and you're both so strong, and agreed to that. You said that. Thank you, Chris. Yes, we have
Thank
choices, Paya. We have
you.
autonomy. We have free will. Absolutely. How about boundaries, though? Let's get into this because we have holidays for those who
Woo.
celebrate coming up here. And, there's a lot of different things that have just been going on in my head when, we think about holidays, we think about boundaries, we think about not only holidays, but like, even 2025, the new year, like, I think personally now is the best time to set yourself up for success prior to the new year. Like, new year, new me, no, I don't do that energy. Like, new year, same you, level up you, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
what comes to mind when it comes to you and like boundaries or holidays or like different types of conversations that just you feel like, I don't know if I'm willing to have these, or setting and holding boundaries with people, or even with shame and comments, because that can come up at holidays, right?
Yeah, I think especially now. So I totally agree with you about the New Year, New You. I don't. I don't do that either. I think it's best to do it now or even like in October or those months and really work on it now so that you can carry it on to your new year. And I don't believe in goals. I believe in intentions.
Mhm.
And I consider it intentions. Now people can do whatever. No, so
Mhm.
I'm not to tell people don't work on goals. For me, it's about intentions because I feel like goals have an end date, an end goal. For me, intentions are things that you're going to keep with you moving forward that you are going to implement, and boundaries. I love boundaries, and I know some days I feel like I'm pretty good with boundaries, and I know some days it's like, am I? And I think especially with the holidays and with everything that happened in November, people are now implementing their boundaries about, okay, is this someone who I want to be around with? Do they have the same values and ethics and morals as I do? And if they don't, why am I spending my time with them? And if that's how you feel, you don't need to feel bad that you're implementing these boundaries. And I think another thing is, so I'm single, I have no children. So luckily, I only have to deal with my immediate family. I don't have to deal with the significant other's family, which my family itself already is hard enough. So, Jackie, you know my family. I come from a huge family.
Yeah, tell people, let them know how big your family is.
So, including all the kids in my family, I have about 27 people in my family. So that's just my immediate family right there. Okay, just my immediate family right there. I honestly don't know if I can imagine dealing with a significant other's family at this time. So
Mhm.
is it a lot easier for me to implement my boundaries? Maybe because I don't have a significant others that I have to consider. And yet, even then, I have to have my boundaries too. And that is communication. It's communication and letting everybody know what works and what doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's like, okay, if it doesn't, is that okay? Is everybody else okay with that? If not, then let's find a time and date that works for everybody. So I think communication is so important when you're setting your boundaries. And also, I I've learned that just because they're family, it doesn't mean that you owe them anything.
Did you read my new oracle deck? That's literally a card in my new cosmic download deck, girl.
I did not.
You are freaky.
Oh my
Just
god,
kidding.
I am. Maybe I have psychic abilities
You
too.
probably do. You probably do.
Oh
Oh
my
my god.
goodness.
That's
Yeah.
wild. No, it's true. Like when you are in I like the card that I wrote was something along the lines, it was a channel download message. And I don't remember if I got this one in Bali or earlier this year or what, because it's been like 6 months in the making. In Bali, I had a lot that I was just writing in my journal. And this one was like, just because they were, are your family member, your friend, or your ex lover, doesn't mean you owe them anything in life. And it was literally what you just said. And it's true. I love what you said about honestly communication, especially with you having 27 people in your family and you make it work. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I've noticed, like with my families and different holidays and stuff, that there has been a lack of communication. And, because of that, I don't feel obligated to go to certain things then. Like, and that's not only happened around the holidays, that's happened around baby showers, different other bridal showers or just other shit like that with families, and I'm like, "I didn't get the invite in the mail. I don't feel obligated to go, and if you're texting me about this, like, if you actually wanted me there, like, you would've just sent a text being like, "Hey, did you get the
Mhm,
invite?" Or you would've called me the day of, and I'm like, "That's fine if you didn't. Like, I'm cool with that, and, like, if you actually
mhm,
did, let's all communicate and get on the same page here. It's not that difficult." And with what you
mhm,
said with values in November and everything that's going on in the world and especially our country, like it's true. A lot of people have different values and a lot of people have different boundaries. And it's okay to be able to say, like, I don't feel safe around this person. I don't feel safe going to your holiday. And, the therapist Facebook groups, and there's different quotes that people are writing. And I saw one today. It was something along the lines of like, if you, God, it was so good, I don't wanna F it up. It
mhm.
was something I'm gonna like re-find what the person wrote. I won't say their name or anything like that, but it was
Okay.
really, really good. But it was
Okay.
also the point where like you talked about, may I share what you said about that news anchor?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Paya was telling me about a news anchor whose parent was a child psychologist, and was it Fox or was it?
Fox News, yes. Yes, a Fox News anchor got disinvited from Thanksgiving, and his mother is a child psychologist.
Yes, because of how they voted, correct?
Fox News. I mean, I'm going to shamelessly say Fox News.
Just shamelessly say it, and, it's out there. People have probably seen it, heard it, whatever, and it's just so freaking true. And so I saw this status on Facebook, someone that I'm friends with that they wrote, and they said, "If you love freedom, but only for certain people, what you really love is privilege." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Damn!" And this person is not a
Yeah.
therapist. I was like, "That is so good. That sums it up really well." And it's just really challenging, I think, for some people. And, different like our therapist groups were
Yeah.
really on it after the election, posting, grieving, frustrated, really saying, depending on the therapist, right? Like really
Hmm.
saying some things about this is a safety issue when it comes
Yeah.
to the outcome of this. And it was
Hmm.
just so interesting how other posts were in there and how it was saying if someone voted against, your rights, you don't have to see them anymore. It's healthier probably to cut that person off because you don't know that they're safe around you.
Hmm.
And if it's a family member, even a partner or a friend or something like that, where it affects them and their rights, like you don't have to be around these people. And, it's interesting because we have a couple of family members who voted the way that the outcome was, right? And they voted for that previously. And, I was gonna I asked my dad, I was like, "Do you think these family members are gonna come to the holidays now?" Because they
Hmm.
haven't as much over the years. And
Yeah.
I was laughing with my partner about it. I was like,
Hmm.
"Well, I wonder if these 2 are gonna come to the holidays now. Should I text my parents?" And I was like, "That's probably too soon though," because it was like the day after. And I was trying to laugh at it, but I'm like, "They probably wouldn't appreciate getting that text message." But I'm like, it's true, and it's also
Yeah.
scary when you are a white person who has privilege that votes for somebody who is saying they're taking the rights away from other people who are
Yeah.
marginalized.
Yeah. And like Jackie, and some of the other like therapy Facebook groups too. I think other people try to have well intentions and did not come off that way, and it showed their privilege in a very negative way. And these are therapists too, and other therapists had to call out this particular therapist for even saying the things that they were saying. And so it's
Oh
just
my
not family
gosh, yeah.
members, like people in our field who
Mhm.
who are not safe. And we do this. Like, this is so ingrained in us during our training about ethics and values. And this is what we do. This is why we do this work. And if you can't give all of this to everybody, I would question, why are you in this field?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I've asked that. I've asked that. People have
Mhm.
known I've asked that to them, and again,
Yeah.
they may not shamelessly own it, and that's up to them then. And it's just scary again too when you are a therapist in the field and you are voting that way. And
Hmm.
then other therapists don't feel safe. Other therapists probably don't want to refer to you. Other therapists are probably like, "What the F are you going to say to a client here?" And we
Hmm.
talk about multiculturalism. We get
Yeah.
trained in cultural competency and we get pushed to keep learning about these intricacies of things and
Hmm.
just even identity and how that can be complex for lots of people. That's why a lot of people go to therapy in the first
Hmm.
place. And
Yeah.
so it's wild. And, I've said this to you, I've said this to other people. Like, it says a lot when a white woman who's a therapist votes for Trump. And it says a lot when a white man who is a therapist votes for Harris. It says a lot. And it says a lot about white women privilege and how they wanna hold on to
Mhm.
that power rather
Mhm.
than do the right thing. They wanna
Mhm.
look out for themselves rather than maybe morally look out for the population, for everyone, for humanity is the best way I can describe
Mhm.
it and say it. And, I may get hated on for that. And honestly, I've said my piece with, anybody
Yeah.
out there when it comes to this. And I don't wish any of those therapists ill will. I think truly a lot of people will be having to shamelessly own next year when things
Yeah.
come out or things change or transition how they
Mhm.
voted. And I think a lot of people now, like you said, are setting boundaries even with this around the holidays or even around safety. And I cannot talk to this person. And, I used to think like, don't talk about, politics at the holidays, don't talk about religion, don't talk about money or whatever. And I like had this thought the other week and I was like, if it's a conducive conversation in regards of you need to know where people stand so then you can
Mhm.
protect yourself and other people. And I
Yeah.
think maybe it's okay to have them and maybe it's okay to say, I can love a person and I can leave a person and I can wish them the best and I don't have to put my safety at risk or the safety of my loved ones at risk anymore. And why would I invite that into my holidays? Truly. Like,
Mhm.
our family, like I've been raised a lot with invite everybody to, whatever, to the holidays. Nobody should be alone.
Mhm.
And I previously talked about something in a video in regards of if people are psychologically or emotionally abusing you or doing
Mhm.
really nasty, cruel things to you and they're your family, no, not
No.
everybody deserves that invite at your table. And I think
Mm-mm.
that might be hard for people to wrap their brains around. But then again, it's like, where's the accountability and the responsibility for your actions and your behaviors? And not inviting some people is holding a boundary. And some people might not like that.
Right. It's about holding peace. Is it holding peace or what word am I saying? It's like whose
Protecting
peace
your
are you
peace.
yeah, protecting your
Whose,
peace?
whose
And it's
peace are
like
their
whose
peace?
peace are you protecting? Are you
Mhm,
protecting their peace or are you protecting our peace? And for the most part, we're protecting other people's peace
mhm.
for the sake of family.
Yeah.
Because it's
And
family. Because it's family.
Mhm. And that's when you know that there's probably a lot of complex trauma, when you feel
Mm.
like you have to fake it till you make it, and I could even like, I was thinking about this today too, remembering people being like, "Shh, like, don't say any of that, don't bring anything up, don't challenge that, shh." I'm like,
Mhm.
"They're clearly doing something wrong here. That's
Right.
not okay to shush somebody for holding someone else to be accountable to their behavior.
Right.
No. And so even with this, like as a woman, I have been
Yeah.
shushed a lot. I have been silenced a lot. And I'm like, no. So I love that what you said about it's about communication. And when I speak to clients about this, I also say it's communication, it's comprehension, it's clarification, and it's implementation you know? And I could have the boundary with you, Paya. I'm not talking about politics at the holidays, right? But if you
Mhm.
just came and you just kept going at me like, Jackie, I want to talk to you about this.
Thank
Why
you,
did you
Aggie.
vote this way?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Blah, 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 blah. You can
Yeah.
actively choose to not implement and respect other people's boundaries too. And I think that's what people need to be mindful of. And I
Yeah.
think people also need to be mindful of using the I language of like, I have a boundary and a personal policy that is fill in the blank, right? And that's how you communicate it and set it, but it's also so hard for some people to hold it because you may have to
Yeah.
say it like 3 times, and I always tell people like
Mhm.
Beetlejuice, 3 times, that's it, and if it's someone who's really, really, really pushed you, needs to be 2 or less because that's not fair,
Mhm.
and then it might be to
When
a point where you have to cut them off.
right, I was gonna say, at some point, do we say three times is enough? I'm not going to keep educating. I think in our field, we've always been told like, let the client educate you, and sometimes clients like, I don't want to educate anymore. I don't want to have to keep educating this therapist about my culture or my religion. I just want someone who gets it. And at some point, it's like, yeah, do we have to keep educating? And when is the cutoff of your education?
Mhm. And as therapists, it's never done.
Mm-mm.
They teach us
I-
that in grad school, and so when it's like when we ask our clients to educate us, that's pretty effed up. Why are we
yeah.
getting paid for a client to educate us? That's like a student doing the teacher's job in grad school
yeah.
or whatever university level being like, "I'm gonna teach you all about this today because apparently that's how we're doing this course." Like, it's no, we're the students, you're the
Where's my money?
teacher.
Where's my- Yeah.
Exactly. Why am I paying to teach? If anything, I should be getting paid to teach this course here.
Hey, you
Doing
said
your
nicely.
job. Mhm. What
When you
other
said that
thoughts?
you were
Yeah.
when you said that
No.
you were silenced a lot, I look a lot back in my own journey and I realized that there was a lot of other women trying to silence me at
Yeah.
family functions or giving me feedback. And it's always like we always think it's men, but it's like, no, it's other women who are shaming us into compliance or suppression and oppression. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what is this all about? And so it's a lot when you talked about the trauma part. It's like a lot of women, especially like older women, like my mom's generation, or even who are like a few years older than me, they don't realize that like the trauma response is like suppress, oppress. If I don't get to say it, you don't get to say it.
Yeah, and then it just keeps the cycle going of abuse in that sense. And then it's also protecting the abuser and Stockholm syndrome. And then when it's like when they try to silence you, you've said this to me, it's bullying. At what
Yeah.
point is that bullying? And it's just like, why are you bullying another woman here? Why are we not allies in this together and being like, whoa, that's actually pretty messed up what
Mhm.
happened right there. And I think
Mhm.
there's something about, you can be a bystander, you can be a bully, or you can be an advocate. Which one do you want to be here? And there's
Mhm.
probably more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't even think that I think when we think of the word bully, we think of the kid in school who beats people up and steals your money. No, bullies come all shapes, sizes, and ages and races and everything.
Hmm. Your mouth is also a powerful weapon.
Yes. Right.
Hmm. What
Oftentimes
else?
it's more powerful than like your fists.
Yeah, and we see that with our clients because of just
Mhm.
the complex trauma of it all, and it is complex. Yes, communication and peaceful boundaries, right on. Absolutely. What else would you say about like boundaries and like how to stand up for yourself and hold the boundaries? Like, how do you stand up for yourself and hold boundaries with people, or just even stand up for yourself in situations?
No, that's like that's such an easy question, and I feel like I have to think about it for some reason. And I do this work, Jackie. I do this work all the
It's an
time. It's like
easy, hard question.
it's an easy, hard question, and I think knowing what your values are, who you are as a person, and standing up for what you believe in, and what is not silencing yourself and other people.
Yeah.
And really, I think especially as women, we've been taught to put everybody else's needs before our own. And I would say it's okay to start putting yourself first.
Mhm. Yeah, putting yourself first and also morally not doing harm to others
Hmm.
and being
Yeah.
intentional about the boundaries that you're setting. Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, it's okay to ask for help with, like, shameless feedback from, like, supportive people that you know, like, and trust, who you have healthy relationships with. Not people who are
Hmm.
unhealthy, not people who are not doing the work, not people who, say one thing and do another, not people that say, "Oh my gosh, I'm healed," and then it's like,
Right.
"I'm gonna go talk a shit about you, bitch," and then, like, whatever, like, not people that are
Yeah.
you said this in an episode, therapists, we love to talk. We don't do the walk. It's like that kind of
Yeah.
vibe and energy. People who are also doing the walk and that are also going to be supportive and not shame you in any way. I think it's okay to
Hmm.
ask for feedback with help with stuff like that when it comes to boundaries or just certain things that people say in conversations because sometimes
Hmm.
we do tend to, as women, try to give more people the benefit of the doubt and gaslight ourselves when we're like, "Wait, what?" Like, "No, this is giving me a really weird, like, taste in my mouth
Yeah.
or that gut intuitive feeling like, no, this is not right here. This is bad." And I think it's fine to
Yeah.
ask those people that you trust to kinda see, am I wrong with this? Is there something where my moral compass needs to be checked here? And I don't know if a
Mhm.
lot of people will do that to slow down to think about, these big things when it comes to boundaries and different types of boundaries: sexual, relational, time,
Mm.
financial, emotional, psychological, spiritual, just so many.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you and I still have to ask each other, am I overreacting about
Mhm,
this situation? And sometimes we find ourselves gaslighting each other, and like ourselves, not each other,
mhm.
ourselves, and then you or I have to point it out, that's gaslighting. And we're therapists, like we're therapists.
It
And
happens to us
yeah,
too.
happens to us too. And sometimes we have to check ourselves. And it's like, am I overreacting? Am I sensitive? And the other thing, all the messages that we've been given as women, that we're too
Mhm.
sensitive, we're too emotional, we take things too personally. And then we have to think like, okay, am I taking this out of context? I've been told so many times, maybe you're taking this out of context. So I'm like, am I? And then I have
Mhm.
to talk to like you, and you have to clarify and say, like, yeah, that's gaslighting, Payam. Okay, I was gaslighted. Oh my God. And we're therapists. We are
Yes.
therapists. It's
Yes.
our work, our specialty, and we still have these moments of like, oh, what is going on?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. And I think it's helpful and healthy to check in because it's so much easier to hear it from someone else than like when
mm,
it's for yourself.
yeah.
And therapists will gaslight therapists. I've been gaslit by therapists like, no, you
Oh, God, yeah.
misunderstood me. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, 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 I didn't. You don't get to twist and manipulate the situation. What you said was clear as day. I gotcha. I gotcha.
Mm,
And because I'm just holding my boundary with you and saying, like, for example, no, I charge for that. No, that is a consultation. No, that is a business coaching package. No, that is fill in the blank, whatever. People are like, oh, no, you misunderstood my question when I wanted to pick your brain. I'm like, no, sure didn't. That's intellectual abuse. That one is easy for me to spot. I'm a pro at intellectual
mm.
abuse, with pick your brain. I fucking hate that shit, right? But
Mhm.
because of that, I've set and held the boundary and that standard for myself since 2021 with business. Or even if people are like, can I ask you a question? I'm like, send me an email.
Mhm.
And they're like, never
Whoa.
do. They never
Yeah.
do. They're like, oh, maybe I can take advantage of Jackie here because she's just so kind. She's a therapist. She's a kind person with boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not
Yeah.
gonna people please you. Like, she's gonna
No.
shamelessly own her business because
Yeah.
if we just keep giving our services away for free when it
Mhm.
comes to this, what does that say? Like, we have to get paid too. We got bills. We gotta put food on our tables. And as like
Yeah,
you
we
said, you
do.
are a single woman, no partner, anything like that. You don't have the privilege of a second income paying half the
Mhm.
bills.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say something like, I think I'm calling out therapists. Therapists, we are notorious for gaslighting other therapists.
Yeah.
I've seen that so much, like in like therapy posts is like, that's not trauma, that's not trauma, that's not this, that's trauma, or like this is not that. And it's just like we gaslight each other so much. And think of this, Jackie, if we're being gaslighted by therapists, imagine how they're treating their clients.
It's scary. It's scary to
It's
think about. Mhm. And you've said this
it's
in episode, therapists hold a lot of power.
yes, we do.
Mhm.
We do hold a lot of power, and our words can make or break people.
Which is really sad. And I've said too, don't let a therapist freaking break you. I promise there is
Yeah.
probably a better one out there. I
Yes.
promise. And it's sad because then we get bad reps. We get trash
Yeah, we
reps
do.
because of those therapists out there who it's like if you were saying certain things to client, what happened in your life? What are you
Yeah.
masking? Like you said with masking, right? What are the things that are going on with you that you potentially
Mhm.
aren't working on, shining a light on, and you're taking it out on clients, which is unfortunate because then they get the brunt of it and then they're like, why the hell would I go to therapy?
Right. I mean, even our experience in Bali, I mean,
Mm,
that was that was conducted. It was like, by a psyche. And, our first week there, I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Is this really
yeah,
happening to us? I'm like,
yeah,
what's going on here? And I had to really reflect, and I had to say, I'm being gaslit. I'm being gaslit. I
yeah,
Yeah, they're using their power to gaslight me and to making me think that I am like the crazy one.
yeah.
And at point I
Mhm.
did feel crazy. I'm like, I'm asking too much here, aren't I? And then I realized, no, I'm not. I'm not asking too
Mm,
much here at all.
no, not at
Because
all.
again, we are therapists and this was happening to us. And I was like, no, okay, okay. And this is why I felt the way I felt when we came back.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Because when there's so much psychological and emotional things that are happening that are manipulative, that are gaslighting, that are just suppressing or feeling like
Hmm.
you have to be silenced or just whatever, it's like it makes it for a very draining experience. And even if you are trying to just even think about it, reflect on it, process it, the brain is still doing that in your sleep, and then it's still needing time to rest, and it's still like, we put our bodies, like, on a flight that was across the world, right? So it's like, even our
Mhm,
bodies are trying to catch up with our brain and our mind with travel and all this stuff too, and to just even think about the things that happened there, abso-freaking-lutely, you're right when it comes to gaslighting and
mhm,
these things, and it makes you reflect on these things, and, I know that, just like any field or career, not all therapists are bad. We don't want to shame therapists here, right? There are therapists though that can do bad things. I
mhm,
mean, myself included. Like I'm not a perfect person at all. And
mhm,
that's one of the reasons, like when they said to me in grad school, you will forever be, or you will be a forever learner. When I do something, I think you know this about me, I freaking take it
mhm,
seriously. Like I give it all, I give it my heart, and I'm not gonna not try to work on myself. I'm never done personally growing, and I think that's hard. They say doctors make the worst patients, therapists make the
mhm.
worst clients sometimes too.
Yeah, yeah. We can't. I don't think we can separate our profession from our human side. And so when we go, we think we know. It's like you don't know. Go be the human, like the human person, and not your profession.
Yes, absolutely, and it is important to
Mhm,
separate that and just have the boundaries with it too and containing it. Oh, are you still there?
mhm,
Okay. Like, froze for a hot minute, but I was the one talking, so I think we're all good. Um Yeah. When, it comes to oh,
everything.
y you're back. Am
Oh,
I
there you
here?
are. Am
I'm
I
here,
here?
you're here. We're here. Yeah.
You're, we're
Yeah.
here.
It's definitely part of the retrograde thing for sure. You're back. Do you like your pageant? Like oh, the Chris says
Miss Miss Universe,
there you
yes.
go. Pi is the next Miss Universe, everyone. Chris says, "Tell the truth and don't back down." There's relief in that, absolutely. When it comes to the holidays in the past, I have, you know, people have said really cruel comments to me, and I had to shamelessly own it and advocate for myself. And like the therapist skills do help because I scanned the room, like when someone made a comment about, "I like this person better than Jackie," right? I just scanned, the table to be like, "'Kay.
Mhm.
Anybody gonna say anything about that?" And I was like, "No." And that moment, I had to speak up for myself and self-advocate, and that's something when I said, "Yeah," and it came out it's a passive aggressive comment that I said, and I said, "Yeah, I would like somebody that I knew for 8 years compared to maybe a year, less than a year spending time with them better too." And I was just,
Yeah.
not happy. It obviously didn't come out in the best way, shape, or form possible. However, I had to speak up for myself because nobody else would. And I'm like, what the heck? What the hell is going on with this dynamic here if
Mhm.
nobody wants to say anything? I'm like, "Is
Yeah.
this what it's typically like?" Because I don't play that. I don't play this cult mentality. We're all gonna be silent in these moments here. Even when someone says something effed up or like they
Mhm.
did something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not about that whatsoever. And then like other people have made comments on my eating habits at the holidays. Oh yeah, you eat like a bird, or aren't you gonna eat more food or this, that, whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you so obsessed with what I'm doing? What I'm wearing, what I'm eating, if I'm wearing makeup, if I'm not wearing makeup, I'm like, hi, shame. Like, how about you STFU? I don't comment on your eating habits, don't comment on mine. And that's how I set and hold a boundary with people. If they want to comment on my body, my weight, my eating, I'm like, y'all, like I have been through it with my body. I used to weigh 195 and I'm 5'2 3/4. And I don't know what the F I weigh now, but when I lost 65 pounds in a year, I was 129. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, you don't know what people actually go through. And did I ever have an eating disorder? No. Could I have been very close to having one in my life? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's the number one mental health diagnosis that people die from the most. There's so much body shame in our society too. And I just wanted
Mhm.
to talk about that a little bit in this as well. Like, you don't have to tolerate those comments. You don't have to um, take them in. And as long as you stand up for yourself in those moments, like it is going to feel so good. And just know that you cannot expect other people to stand up for you at all. You have to be your own um, advocate in these situations. And you really just have to make it short, sweet, and shameless, you know?
Mhm. I'm to the point in my life where people give me certain energy, I give it right back to them. To the point, I came from a very shaming culture, and you probably did too because you're Polish.
Mhm,
As a Hmong girl, Hmong women, number one thing they love to tell you was your body. It's like,
mhm,
oh, why are you like this? Oh, why are you like that? And people stop commenting my body once like I hit my 30s, but I had much of that, and then when you give it back to them, they give you this look like, "Oh, how dare you?" It's like, "Honey, you started this. I finished it."
and don't start something that you can't finish
Yeah, don't
here.
start something. Yeah, if you can't finish it. And so I never start stuff, but I will finish now.
Right, and I'm in my 30s, and, like, the fact that people are saying these things to me that are, like the people that are closest to you will shame you, and I've done previous posts on that. The people that are closest to you sometimes don't always support you, like, it's just wild, and they don't even wanna say, "I'm sorry," unless you hold them accountable to it and you say, "Please apologize, that's not okay. I'm not moving forward with you in a relationship
Mhm.
unless you apologize to me." And some people need that
Yeah.
as a repair attempt, and that's healthy, that's normal, that's okay. And I think it's just such a lack of respect for the other person as well as yourself when you feel the need to comment on someone else's body because 9 times out of 10, that person is insecure with their own.
Mhm. Yeah. Am I still on here or okay? Just to add to that, like I would have to say most of my bullies were family members than strangers or kids at school.
Mhm. Same.
Kids at school were actually the nice kids. It was my own family that was bullying me. And
Mhm.
the family that would make comments about my body all the time. It was not strangers. You would think it was like the cruel kids at school, but no, it was like
Mhm.
your own family, the people closest to you that would make these shaming comments about my body and other people's bodies.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's family members, people that you are related to that really are supposed to be there to protect you, and that's a generational curse, and it's generational trauma. And, they don't even realize, wow, if I say this to Jackie or I say this to Paia, who is she gonna say that to at school? Because I definitely then like wanted to like bully other people or say mean things over the years
Mhm.
because of how people treated me. And no, was I a perfect friend? Absolutely not. Or a perfect person? Absolutely not. And the thing of it is like you don't realize what kids will say to kids as well nowadays, or just
Mhm.
even when I was growing up, it
Yeah.
shows up. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not healthy or helpful either. And until people told me too, because you learn lessons from other people, right? Like to apologize or actually held me accountable to those things. I learned so much about how mean I was or I could be to certain people. And that's not okay. And
Mhm.
now that's why I'm like, holy crap. Like when your brain is fully developed at age 25, you realize I had learned so much crap from the people I grew up with or were around me or different communities or even friends too. I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but friends as well. And it's kind of scary when you realize, whoa, there's a lot of generational curses and trauma that can even be psychologically or emotionally abusive. And then when you realize it and you work on yourself and you're like, wow, that was really shitty what I did. Or
Mhm.
wow, maybe I need to feel this shame in order to not do this again, to not hurt another person with my words or my actions or what I said. That's a learning moment and that's growing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even now as a 40-year-old, I had someone who was close to me says, "Well, I want to lose all this weight. I want to be 110 pounds." I was like, "Oh." To me, I was like, "Wow, 110?" I'm like, that's really like a lot of weight." And I'm like, "What are they?" That's when I knew I'm like, so many people have wounds. So many people have generational curses and traumas that they're not working through, and that's why they're making these comments. Not that 110 is like, bad, but it's just like, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of this? And
Hmm.
I have nieces and nephews, and I've had to call out my mom saying, don't be saying stuff like that to them.
Hmm.
Like, always
Hmm.
just joke. I'm like, nope, it's not.
No, it's not a joke.
These
Hmm.
kids are it's so hard to be a kid this day and age. And for you to say that, it's like, no, this shit's gonna stop. This shit's gonna stop. We're not gonna pass this shit on to our kids. We're just not gonna pass this shit on to our kids.
Mhm. I love that you brought that up and just even, shamelessly calling people out on this and saying, "No, no, 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 do not make comments about that person." Because I think a lot of people don't realize too, like, there are women out there too who are allies,
Yeah.
and it's important to be allies to other women in this. And then when you said the person that wants to lose 110 or be 110, like their weight or whatever, like we see these little comments that people make, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of the part where you said, wow, whoa, like this seems odd, or there's something unhealed here. What's going on?
Mhm.
What is that purpose underneath it? And then you're like, dang, this is a lot of things that are people are wounded more than they are actually willing to admit.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm,
And they think by losing weight, having nice clothes, it's gonna hide those wounds. Yeah, you're gonna
mhm.
look great. You're gonna look hot. Yeah, no doubt. But what's internally inside though, beyond the clothes?
Oh, yeah, totally, and here's the thing too, you wanna know something? I was like, "Yeah, I'm not fully confident in myself even though I was 129 at that point," and one of my friends who was a woman, she shamed me, she was like, "Oh, don't be that girl who, like, lost all this weight and you're 129 now, and then, like, you're not confident in yourself, really?" And I'm like, "I just shared something extremely vulnerable," and this was at a holiday party, yeah. I was like, "I shared something extremely vulnerable with you, and now I'm like, I know I can't talk to you about this. I know
Mhm.
I will never ever come to you with this. I know I will not open up to you emotionally, and we will not have that emotionally intimate connection at all." And honestly, I haven't talked to that person in years. It's probably been a decade to think of it.
Wow.
So again, it's one of those things where I had to work on my confidence because just
Mhm.
because you lose weight and people are like, "You have so much confidence now, Jackie, blah, 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 or your energy has changed. Like, you look confident." And I'm like, really? I'm like, because I don't always feel that way. I'm still working on the internal. It's not just the
Mhm.
external. And I think that's a hard
No.
lesson for people to learn, and over time, I've grown in that to really build like, my
Mhm.
confidence is setting boundaries, it's being honest, it's using this rather than,
Mhm.
like, using this to lose
Mhm.
weight, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Mhm.
not the math doesn't math for me.
Mhm. The external can only take you so far.
Yes, and
The
my
external can
therapist helped me
only,
with that
yeah,
previously.
it can only take you so far. I mean, you can be 110 pounds, be a size 2, look fabulous in clothes, and if you are internally not healed, it's going to show up. I mean, look at all these celebrities. Look at all
Yes,
these well-known people. They have it all. They're beautiful, and yet they're not happy. It's like external can only take you so far.
yes, you're absolutely right. My phone is at, like, 9%, so I wanna
Oh
ask you I wanna ask you, do you wanna be able to do part 2 next week and be able to do a little bit more about people being unhealed and just going live with that in particular?
I thought you never asked, Jackie. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just wanna make sure just to see because I know we are
Yeah.
kind of getting
December
into
is
that
like the perfect
territory.
time.
Yeah.
What was that?
I just know we're kinda getting into that territory a little bit, but there might be more, and I didn't, wanna just abruptly be like, "Oh my god, my phone died, y'all," or anything
Yeah,
like that.
no, I am looking forward to that. I see a lot of I'm asking unhealed in beneath that mask.
Okay. Yeah, you cut out, but I think we got it with I see a lot of unhealed things beneath the mask with people. So oh, no. Are you paused again? Okay, you're back. Ah!
Yep, can't hear you. Oh, Chris says can't hear
Yeah, you
you.
were
Oh
just saying, like,
no.
I
What
can
about
hear you.
now?
You were
Okay.
saying about you've just seen a lot of unhealed, people or things or people really unmasking. Yeah, you wrote your blog back in September.
Yeah, it was hella hot when I wrote that, like hot in
Mhm.
temperature. And I was like, you know what? A lot more people are gonna unmask themselves, and sure as heck, a lot of people unmask, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of unhealed people who become, I'm gonna say it, unhinged.
Yeah, so let's talk about it next week. Like, we'll talk about, signs of maybe being unhealed, maybe even talking to people about that. How do you broach those conversations? And again, it might just naturally lean into some of the boundary stuff too, or not, depending. But um,
Mhm.
I just want to say thank you for doing this live with me. I know this was longer. It was a great conversation. I'm excited
Yeah.
to share it. And I'm glad that you and I came together to just shamelessly own it, like, and talk about
Mhm.
these things. So, um, final thoughts before my phone dies.
No, thank you for this. I'm glad we did this. Great to reflect on our podcast and more to come. I know that this is just beginning. There's more to come, and as we do all of that, more people are going to be like, "Wow, thanks for being honest. Thanks for being shamelessly owning it and just calling out for what it
Heck
is."
yes, absolutely. Well, everybody,
Yeah.
if you're watching the replay back, definitely go check out Paia's channel because she does have a lot more great content in store. And she did an amazing episode just even about her body and everything like that. And I think it was just such a fabulous one for people to listen to. I will link her channel in the comments below, but definitely go support her, help her grow, like this video, and shamelessly support us by dropping a heart in the comments below. Shameless
Woo-hoo.
only.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. And as always, stay shameless and
Own it.
bye, everyone.
Bye.